You've been running toward healing like it's a destination. But what if the only thing keeping you from it is the running itself? There's a kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. A heaviness that sits in your chest just beneath the surface of your daily routines. You wake up, and it's already there waiting for you like an old companion you never invited, but can't seem to leave behind. You've tried everything, haven't you? You've read the books. You've repeated the affirmations. You've scheduled the therapy sessions, bought the journals, downloaded the meditation apps. You've tried to think your way out of pain, to strategize your way into peace. And still, something lingers. It's not that these things don't work. It's that somewhere along the way, healing became another task on your list, another mountain to climb, another version of yourself you had to become before you were allowed to rest. And so you keep pushing, keep striving, keep white, knuckling your way through the days, convinced that if you just try hard enough, control enough, fix enough, you'll finally arrive at the person you're supposed to be. But here's what no one tells you. The healing you're chasing isn't hiding at the end of effort. It's buried beneath it. Beneath the trying. Beneath the fixing. Beneath the endless inner war you've been waging against yourself, believing that resistance is strength and that surrender is defeat. We've been taught to see surrender as weakness, as giving up, as the white flag you wave when you've lost the battle. But what if surrender isn't about losing? What if it's about finally putting down a fight that was never yours to win? Think about it. Right now, in this very moment, you are holding something. Not in your hands, in your being. Maybe it's a story about who you should be. Maybe it's a wound you've been protecting for so long that it's become part of your identity. Maybe it's the belief that you have to earn your peace, that you have to be good enough before you're allowed to feel whole. And you're gripping it so tightly. Your knuckles are white. Your shoulders are tense. Your breath is shallow. All because some part of you believes that if you let go, you'll fall apart. But what if falling apart is exactly what needs to happen? Not in the way you fear, not a collapse, not a breakdown, but a breaking open, a shedding, a return to what was always underneath the armor. The mystics knew this. The Sufis spoke of fana, annihilation of the ego, the small self dissolving into something greater. Not death, but transformation. The caterpillar doesn't become the butterfly by trying harder to be a caterpillar. It surrenders to the cocoon. It lets itself be undone. Zen masters teach that enlightenment comes not through accumulation, but through subtraction. Not by adding more knowledge, more control, more discipline, but by removing the layers of illusion, by letting go of the stories, by releasing the grip. Alan Watts once said that we suffer because we try to control the river. We stand in the current, arms outstretched, pushing against the flow, exhausting ourselves in an attempt to make the water go where we think it should. And all the while, the river knows exactly where it's going. It always has. Your life is that river. Your healing is that river. And you beautiful, exhausted, determined you have been trying to redirect it with your bare hands. This isn't your fault. You were taught that control equals safety. That effort equals worthiness. That if you just manage everything perfectly, your emotions, your thoughts, your past, your future, you'll finally be okay. But the truth is simpler and far more terrifying. You are already okay. not because you've done everything right, not because you've healed every wound or resolved every conflict or become the best version of yourself. You are okay because you are. Because beneath all the noise, beneath all the striving, beneath all the fear, there is a stillness in you that has never been broken. A wholeness that was never fractured. A peace that doesn't need to be earned because it was never lost. The healing you seek isn't something you have to become. It's something you have to remember. And remembering requires one thing above all else: surrender. Not surrender to circumstances, not surrender to suffering, but surrender to what is. Surrender to the truth of this moment, exactly as it is, without needing to change it, fix it, or escape it. Surrender to the fact that you are human, that you will feel pain, that you will make mistakes, that you will carry wounds, and some of them may never fully close, and that's okay. That's not failure, that's life. Surrender to the reality that you cannot think your way into peace. You cannot control your way into love. You cannot earn your way into wholeness. You can only allow it. Open to it. Stop resisting it. Stop standing in the current with your arms outstretched, exhausted and aching, trying to bend the river to your will. What if, just for a moment, you lowered your arms? What if you let the water hold you? What if you trusted that the current knows where it's going, even when you don't? This is where healing begins. Not in the trying, not in the doing, but in the softening, in the sacred, terrifying, liberating act of letting go. Here's the paradox that will either set you free or keep you imprisoned. The more you try to control your healing, the further away it moves. Because control is the language of fear, and healing speaks in whispers of trust. Think about the last time you tried to force yourself to feel better. Maybe you were anxious, and you told yourself to calm down. Maybe you were sad, and you insisted you should be grateful. Maybe you were angry, and you shamed yourself for not being more evolved. How did that work? Did the anxiety dissolve? Did the sadness lift? Did the anger subside? Or did it intensify? Did it dig in deeper, like a child who feels unheard, demanding to be acknowledged? This is the great mistake we make. We treat our inner world like a problem to be solved. We approach our emotions like enemies to be defeated. We see our pain as evidence of failure, something to be eliminated as quickly as possible. And in doing so, we create the very suffering we're trying to escape. The 13th century poet Rumi understood this deeply. He wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you, not where the light will someday enter, once you've healed properly. Where it enters, present tense, right now, in the breaking." But we don't want to hear that, do we? We want the wound to close. We want the pain to stop. We want to be whole without the breaking, healed without the surrender. We want transformation without dissolution, growth without discomfort, peace without letting go of what we're holding. It doesn't work that way. It never has. There's a story in Sufi tradition about a man who comes to a master desperate for enlightenment. "Teach me," he begs. "Show me the way to God." The master takes him to the river. Without warning, he pushes the man's head underwater and holds it there. The man struggles, panics, fights for air. Finally, the master pulls him up. "What did you want most when you were under the water?" The master asks. "Air," the man gasps. "I wanted air more than anything." When you want God as much as you wanted that breath, The master says, you will find what you're looking for. But here's what the story doesn't say explicitly. The man had to stop fighting. He had to surrender to the water. He had to let go of control in order to receive what he needed most. Your healing is asking the same thing of you. Not that you drown, but that you stop thrashing, that you trust the water, that you surrender to the process instead of trying to orchestrate every detail of it. This is counterintuitive in a culture that worships productivity, that measures worth by output, that treats rest as laziness and uncertainty as weakness. We've been conditioned to believe that if we're not actively doing something about our problems, we're being passive, complacent, irresponsible. But there's a profound difference between passivity and surrender. Passivity is resignation. It's defeat. It's the collapse that comes from exhaustion, from giving up. Surrender is something else entirely. Surrender is active, conscious, intentional. It's not the absence of effort, it's the redirection of it. It's choosing to work with life instead of against it, to flow with the current instead of fighting it. It's the difference between a tree in a storm. One tree is rigid. It resists the wind, holds its branches stiff, refuses to bend. And when the storm grows strong enough, it snaps, it breaks. The other tree bends, it yields. It lets the wind move through it, dancing with the force instead of opposing it. And when the storm passes, it's still standing, stronger, even for having learned to move. Which tree are you? Which tree have you been taught to be? Most of us are the rigid tree. We've been told that strength means standing firm, that resilience means never breaking, that healing means returning to who we were before the storm. But what if healing isn't about going back? What if it's about learning to bend? The ego, that small, frightened part of you that thinks it's in charge, hates this idea. The ego believes that if you let go, you'll lose yourself. That if you stop controlling, everything will fall apart. That if you surrender, you'll be vulnerable, exposed, defenseless. And it's right. You will be vulnerable. You will be exposed, but not in the way you fear. You'll be vulnerable to love, exposed to grace, open to the possibility that you don't have to carry everything alone. The ego wants you to believe that you are the one holding your life together, that if you relax your grip, it will all come crashing down. But the truth is the opposite. Your grip is the only thing keeping you from wholeness. You are not holding your life together. Life is holding you. It always has been. Every breath you take without thinking about it. Every heartbeat that happens while you sleep. Every wound that heals without your conscious intervention. Your body knows how to heal. Your psyche knows how to heal. The universe, call it God, call it consciousness, call it the Tao, knows how to heal. But it can't do its work while you're in the way, while you're micromanaging every sensation, analyzing every emotion, trying to direct every outcome. Healing requires space, silence, stillness, and you cannot be still while you're clenched. So the question isn't, how do I heal? The question is, what am I holding that prevents my healing? What story? What identity? What need to be right? To be in control? To be the architect of your own salvation. And here's the terrifying, liberating truth. You don't have to know the answer. You just have to be willing to ask, to soften, to open your hands and see what falls away. Surrender isn't a one-time event. It's not a dramatic moment where you suddenly let go of everything, and float into enlightenment. It's a practice, a daily, moment-by-moment choice to release what you're gripping. And it starts smaller than you think, much smaller. It starts with your breath. Right now, notice how you're breathing. Are you holding it, controlling it, or are you allowing it to move through you naturally, effortlessly? Most of us don't realize we're holding our breath until someone points it out. We walk through our days in a state of low, level tension, chest tight, shoulders raised, breathing shallow as if we're bracing for impact that never comes. This is the body's response to chronic control. When you try to manage everything, your nervous system never gets the message that it's safe to rest. It stays vigilant, alert, ready. So the first act of surrender is simple: breathe. Fully, deeply. Let the exhale be longer than the inhale. Let your belly soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your shoulders drop. This isn't just a relaxation technique. It's a message to your entire being. I am safe enough to let go. The second practice is even more challenging. Feel what you're feeling without trying to change it. This is where most of us stumble, because we've been taught that feeling bad is a problem to be fixed. That sadness needs to be cheered up. That anxiety needs to be calmed. That anger needs to be managed. But emotions aren't problems. They're information. They're the language of your inner world trying to tell you something important. And when you rush to silence them, to fix them, to make them go away, you miss the message. Surrender means meeting your emotions exactly as they are, not as you wish they were, not as you think they should be, as they are. When anxiety arises, instead of immediately reaching for distraction or trying to think your way out of it, you pause. You place a hand on your chest. You say, I feel you. I'm here. You're allowed to be here. When grief wells up, instead of pushing it down or telling yourself to be strong, you let it move through you. You cry. You wail if you need to. You honor the love that lives underneath the loss. When anger surfaces, instead of judging yourself or suppressing it, you acknowledge it. You feel the heat of it in your body. You let it exist without acting on it destructively and without pretending it isn't there. This is radical. This is revolutionary. Because in a world that wants you to be perpetually positive, perpetually productive, perpetually fine, feeling your feelings without fixing them is an act of rebellion. It's also an act of self-compassion. Because beneath every emotion is a need. Beneath the anxiety is a need for safety. Beneath the grief is a need to honor what mattered. Beneath the anger is a need for boundaries, for justice, for respect. When you surrender to the emotion, you create space to hear the need. And when you hear the need, you can respond to it with wisdom instead of reactivity. The third practice is releasing the need to know, to have answers, to figure everything out. We live in a culture obsessed with certainty. We want to know what's going to happen, how it's going to unfold, whether we're making the right choices. We want guarantees, maps, 5-year plans, but life doesn't work that way. Life is improvisation. It's jazz, not classical music. It's a conversation, not a monologue you've rehearsed. And healing, real healing, requires you to become comfortable with not knowing. To trust the process even when you can't see the destination. To take the next step without needing to see the whole staircase. This doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean abandoning discernment or responsibility. It means releasing the illusion that you can predict or control the future if you just think hard enough about it. It means saying, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's okay. I don't know if this will work out, and I'm moving forward anyway. I don't know who I'll be on the other side of this, and I trust that whoever that is will be exactly who I need to be. The fourth practice, and perhaps the most difficult, is surrendering your identity, the story of who you think you are. We cling to our narratives. I'm the strong one. I'm the helper. I'm the one who's been through trauma. I'm the anxious one. I'm the one who doesn't need anyone. These stories feel like truth. They feel like the core of who we are, but they're just stories, constructs, ways we've learned to make sense of ourselves in a complex world. And sometimes, the very story that once protected you becomes the thing that imprisons you. The identity that gave you purpose becomes the cage that keeps you small. Surrender invites you to loosen your grip on these narratives, to ask, who would I be without this story? What would be possible if I weren't defined by this role, this wound, this way of seeing myself? This isn't about denying your past or dismissing your experiences. It's about recognizing that you are not your story. You are the awareness that witnesses the story, the space in which all stories arise and dissolve. And from that space, you have choice. You can rewrite, you can let go, you can become someone new, not because you've fixed yourself, but because you've stopped holding yourself in a fixed image. Finally, surrender requires you to trust something larger than yourself. Whether you call it the universe, God consciousness, life itself, there is an intelligence at work that exceeds your individual will. A rhythm, a flow, an order that emerges from apparent chaos. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to see how it all fits together. You just have to stop pretending you're the one in charge. Stop carrying the weight of outcomes that were never yours to control. When you do, something miraculous happens. Life starts to support you in ways you never imagined. Synchronicities appear, doors open. The right people show up at the right time. Not because you manifested it through force of will, but because you finally got out of the way. So here you are, at the edge of letting go. And it's terrifying, isn't it? Because everything in you has been trained to hold on, to fight, to manage, to control. But somewhere beneath the fear, there's a whisper, a quiet knowing. A part of you that's exhausted from carrying so much, that's tired of the endless effort, that's finally ready to rest. That part of you knows that the truth. Surrender is not defeat. It's homecoming. It's the return to who you were before the world taught you to be someone else, before the wounds told you to protect yourself, before the fear convinced you that you had to do it all alone. Surrender is the recognition that you are not separate from life. You are not a small, isolated self trying to survive in a hostile universe. You are an expression of life itself, a wave in an infinite ocean, a note in an eternal song, and the ocean doesn't need the wave to tell it how to move. The song doesn't need the note to orchestrate the melody. They are already whole, already complete, already perfect in their unfolding. So are you. So are you. The healing you seek isn't waiting at the end of your effort. It's here, now, in the softening. In the breath you didn't know you were holding. In the story you're finally willing to release. in the tears you've been too strong to cry. It's in the moment you stop trying to be anything other than what you are. When you stop grading yourself against an imaginary standard of wholeness and recognize that you were never broken to begin with. You were cracked, yes, worn down, weathered by life, but cracks are not flaws. They're how the light gets in. They're how you become more human, more real, more alive. And the real healing, isn't about sealing those cracks. It's about letting light move through them. It's about becoming transparent, permeable, open. It's about trusting that you don't have to be perfect to be loved, that you don't have to be fixed to be whole, that you don't have to have it all together to be exactly where you need to be. There's a Japanese art form called kintsugi. When a ceramic pot breaks, instead of throwing it away or hiding the damage, artisans repair it with gold. They highlight the cracks. They make the brokenness beautiful. And the pot becomes more valuable, more precious than it was before it broke. This is what surrender offers you. Not a return to who you were before you broke, but a transformation into something more beautiful because of the breaking. Your cracks are not failures. They're where the gold goes. They're where your humanity shines through. They're what make you real. So stop trying to hide them. Stop trying to smooth them over. Stop exhausting yourself trying to appear seamless when your beauty is in the fractures. Let yourself be seen in your incompleteness. Let yourself be held in your uncertainty. Let yourself be loved exactly as you are, not despite your struggles, but with them, through them, because of them. This is the freedom of surrender, not a passive giving up, but an active letting go. A conscious choice to stop resisting what is and start trusting what's possible. And what's possible is this peace, not someday. When you've healed all your wounds and resolved all your conflicts and become the person you think you should be. But now, in this moment, in this breath, peace is your nature. It's not something you achieve. It's something you uncover by removing what blocks it, the striving, the controlling, the endless inner war. And when you finally stop fighting, even just for a moment, you realize you were never fighting life. You were fighting yourself. And the moment you lay down your weapons, the moment you surrender to what is, you discover that there was never an enemy. There was only ever love trying to reach you through the noise. So listen, feel, soften, let go. Let go of who you think you should be. Let go of the timeline you invented. Let go of the need to understand everything. Let go of the belief that you have to earn your peace. You don't. You never did. You are already whole. You are already home. You are already healed in the ways that matter most, not because you've done everything right, but because you exist. Because you're here. Because beneath all the noise and struggle and striving, there is a stillness in you that has never been disturbed. And the moment you surrender to that stillness, the moment you stop running and let it hold you, everything changes. Not because your circumstances shift, not because your problems dissolve, but because you remember who you are beneath the problems. You remember the peace that doesn't depend on anything going right, the love that doesn't need to be earned, the wholeness that was never lost. This is the healing you've been seeking, not out there, not in the future, not in some perfected version of yourself. Here. Now, in the surrendering. So take a breath, a real one. Let your body soften. Let your mind quiet. Let your heart open. And ask yourself, what would it feel like to stop carrying this? What would it feel like to trust? What would it feel like to finally let go? You don't have to know the answer. You just have to be willing to find out. The river is waiting. The water is warm. And you exhausted, beautiful, human you don't have to hold yourself together anymore. Just let go. Let the current take you. Let yourself be held. The healing you seek starts in surrender. And the surrender starts now.